Just the project itself gets you started, because working with a team like the Dallas Cowboys, if that doesn't get you motivated, then there's not a lot in the sports world that would get you motivated. Secondly, it's the HKS culture. We really are a family here. So there's a lot of nights that we have to stay late, but we make sure that we take a little bit of downtime, have friendship, and make it fun. And that's huge, I think. It's the only way that I can get through, you know, the rigors and the pressure of somebody saying, you need to create the greatest venue in the world for the greatest team in the world, and you have 3 years, go. It's a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But at the end of the day, when people walk in there, I mean, that just is so worth it for all of us. It was important for us to try to get anybody that was involved in the project, get them on the same page, let them understand the importance of the building and the goal. We were going to create the greatest stadium in the world. They were already coming to the table excited about, hey, we're working on Cowboys Stadium. But we said, okay, this is not only Cowboys Stadium, the entire world's going to see the stadium, they're going to want to be in the stadium, and we're all going to be a part of it. Once you feel that and understand that, then you take a little bit more time. You make sure that, you know, A, B, and C are done in the right order, and it pays off. In that building, you can walk around that building, and the craftsmanship, the construction, the fact that 3 million square feet was built in that time frame, nobody got hurt on site. There's just on down the list. There's great stories all the way through the entire construction of that project. It starts really with our motto, which is we listen, innovate, and deliver. If you think about the first piece, we are really good listeners here. And Jerry Jones had a lot of stuff to say, and the NFL had a lot of stuff to say. And it was a very open forum to go back and forth between the Cowboys and HKS and spend the right amount of quality time just thinking about what this venue could be. The Dallas Cowboys have always made a statement. The building needed to make a statement. We also knew that all of the things that you do and can do in the future via a BlackBerry, an iTouch, an iPad, your television, you are going to be able to experience an event being a continent away, to some degree, as close as when you're there. Meaning you can touch the screen, you can move to different things, you can select shots, you can roam around the building if you wanted to. All that technology is there today. So that's half the puzzle. The other half is when you're there and you're used to all that, watching the game the day before, now all of a sudden it's Monday night and you're actually in Cowboys Stadium, your expectations for going there have grown. Because now at home you can touch and see and feel other things that you now want to think you definitely want to experience when you're there. We knew the NFL and the Cowboys were looking at doing a new venue for a time period before Jerry actually came to HKS. We knew because it was one of the most exciting projects in the entire sports entertainment world. So we were on top of it and ready to go, and Jerry Jones and the family actually came to HKS and started talking to us very, very early on in the process about building a new home for the Cowboys. And that was really day one. The neat thing about it was he started about 3 years earlier than most teams do. So we had a good chunk of time to look at sites, to study the Cowboys brand, and really do a lot of good homework and insight into how to create a venue for the world's greatest team. Jerry and Gene Jones from day one understood the power of A, the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL, and B, entertainment. And that the Cowboys are really the ultimate in sports and entertainment. A lot of people go to the game not so much to watch the game, but to go there and be a part of the mix, a part of the entertainment, to be seen, just to have that overall experience of being somewhere exciting. And that was exciting for us because that's something that we're always trying to push on our clients, push on our owners, that it's a lot of times it's more than just a single event. It's the experience from waking up in the morning, driving there, to seeing the stadium in the distance, to being there 3 hours before and 3 hours after. So there's a lot of anticipation, and then the event happens, and then a lot of people don't want to go home right away. You know, it's hard to leave an experience like that. And the other big thing is, it was really the first time that a client understood that the building was the biggest physical form of their brand. Cowboys Stadium is the most viewed building in the world on television, bar none. The Jones family and HKS thought about that a lot and said, what does that mean? Well, that means, that building may be as important or more important than Tony Romo or whoever the starting quarterback is. And we also knew that 7% of NFL fans actually go to a venue to a game. So 93% of the people that are Cowboys fans, that are NFL fans, are not actually sitting in a seat in a venue. They're watching it via TV. So that makes that whole television experience grow even more. This was just more than a place to play 10 football games. This really was a piece of architecture that the world would see. It was the biggest physical form of the Dallas Cowboys themselves. Those are two huge things that we had to address and look at, but that was the exciting part of the project. There was a couple factors early on when we did the brand analysis of the Cowboys organization. The number one component of the brand was the hole in the roof from Texas Stadium. We went back and did a little redesign, and we incorporated the famous hole in the roof from Texas Stadium. Now, it's different because there's an operable component and the roof closes up. That was one starting point for the design. The second piece was it's very complicated when you have 3 million square feet. It's a huge scale. We tried to break it down to very simplistic forms. So we have a very strong masonry base at the bottom of the building, and then we've got about 94 feet of glass that's canted out, sloped out 14 degrees, that sort of sweeps along the whole elevation. And then all of that is tied together by the world's longest ground span trusses that go 1/4 of a mile and are very, very powerful elements within the design, and you always see where they are, whether you're on the outside or the inside. Those are the big pieces, and then the roof structure itself. But those are very large, pretty simple components if you break down the elevation and the design. But they're doing very different things. The steel is 60 feet deep. It's very powerful. It's always there sort of, over your shoulder. You're walking to it or you feel it above you. And then at the same time, there's this very graceful curtain wall that sort of sweeps and ties everything together. This probably is not a good analogy, but I always say that in a way it's like football. You may have two lines going at it, and you've got 350-pound men beating each other up, which are the steel trusses. And then at the same time, you've got this graceful running back flowing in between them, and that's sort of the sweeping curve of the glass and the roof form. There's an area that's very simple, and you have to have it, an access ramp that goes from street level down to the loading dock area. If you could sit there in a 3-hour window before an event, watch the activity, it would blow your mind away. Because just the coordination of how people get there, what time they get there, what do they do when they get there, how they stage it, unloading, I can go on and on and on. It's amazing if you start to think about the quantity of people, food, deliveries, things going in and out of that building. It's amazing. And it can be from, I can tell you in a 1-hour period, they are delivering beverages, and then 30 minutes later, there's an NFL team coming down in a bus on that same road. And it may be who's ever singing the national anthem gets brought in that way. It may be former President George Bush that gets snuck into the building that way. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that that happens in a very short period on this little 2-lane road that goes down in there. There's not a space in the building that I don't think you walk in and you look around in amazement. And the neat thing for me is that when people are there for about 10 minutes, they totally forget they're in a football stadium. Because there are spaces that look like hotels. There are spaces where there's dining that looks like the nicest restaurant you can go to in Dallas. There are clubs and lounges that compete with any convention center, hotel, gathering space. There's, the world's largest TV in HD is sitting there that you can see. You can't walk one step without seeing a TV. The finishes are top of the line, beautiful finishes, high quality. And all of that is in the football stadium. There will be live music events, maybe on television, award shows, things like that. They're going to happen in that venue. Hasn't happened in a venue like that before. I see things like premieres for movies happening there. You've got the largest HD TV in the world, and you can get 100,000 people in there to watch a movie premiere. For me, as an architect, that's what really puts the bow on it. You know, you walk in there and you see a 5-year-old kid look up at that TV like you did at Christmas looking at your first bike. And I mean, that's an amazing feeling to have something like that happen.